Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Shreshtam Manamapi Shatiputra Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Urupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Surrender unto me only. Do whatever I say. Bow down to me. Dedicate your life fully to me with no other thought. Everything you have, your money, your life, your property, your family members, your intelligence, should be dedicated to me only. Everything you do should be for my pleasure only. Who can say this? Only Krishna is entitled to say this. He says at the end of his teachings to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadhaman parityaja mamekam sharanang vraja. Surrender to me only. Giving up all other thoughts, all other ideas. Think of me only, he says. Bow down to me, worship me. Of course, before Krishna says this, he explains why he is entitled to say this and how we can all benefit by doing so. And in fact, how we cannot derive any benefit from any other mode of action than surrender to him. But he doesn't force it. In the phone's off, please. In the Shastra, the Vedic literature, we find similar statements being made about the Guru, how one should surrender, bow down to him. But the Guru says, surrender to Krishna. The surrender to Krishna is through the medium of the Guru. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Dikha kale bhakta kare ata shamarpan. At the time of initiation, the devotee surrenders himself. That means that he or she makes the vow, the determination to enter the path of Sharnagati. Sharnagati. Krishna says, Mamekam Sharanang Vraja, take shelter of me. What this practically means is Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishati vishvaso goptridve varnang tata atmanikshepa karpanye shardavidha Sharnagati. As Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse in his commentary on the Mamekam Sharanam Vraja verse, to have the vow to act in a way. Please, the mother of this child, take and keep under control. The sankalpa should be there, the vow, the determination to act in a manner that is favorable for cultivation of Krishna consciousness, and to reject all that is unfavorable, to give up all activities that are unfavorable for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, and to give up all ideas that are unfavorable. Ideas such as that I can be independent, Atma Samarpan means dedicating oneself fully. So the idea of acting independently of Krishna is to be given up. Rakshisha, with the faith that Krishna is protecting me, Krishna is maintaining me, and with this full faith, Atma Samarpan, another term is given, Atma Nikshepa, to fully throw oneself at Krishna. Throw oneself toward Krishna. And in all humility. So these are the 6 aspects of Sharnagati. Practically, at the time of initiation in our Krishna conscious movement, it is required to vow to follow 4 regulated principles: no tea, coffee, alcohol, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, and no gambling. And to chant a minimum 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra daily. These are the practical activities that should be done. So these 2 phases of activities, that which should be done and that which should not be done, that covers the most important of the anukulyasya sankalpa. That which should be done is chanting the holy names, and that which should not be done, engaging in sinful activities. But there is much more. It's implied, it's not stated, or one does not have to vow to do activities any more than chanting 16 rounds daily of the Hare Krishna mantra and abstaining from the 4 sinful activities. Of course, there are many, many other sinful activities, but particularly these 4 activities. One vows to abstain from that, but there are many other activities which if we don't follow, then we're not going to be able to sustain the 16 plus 4 either. It's implied. It's not stated, but it's implied. We're going to study Srila Prabhupada's books. We're going to associate with devotees. We're going to engage in active devotional service. We're not only going to refrain from meat eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit sex, but we're also going to refrain from reading useless novels and any activities which are extraneous to Krishna consciousness. And over and above this, what we're really looking at is Krishna consciousness, to be conscious of Krishna. Manmana, always think of Krishna. So the whole practice, at the time of initiation, we surrender. So we surrender to the practice of the process, which brings us to the point of full surrender. We surrender to the process. We make the vow to surrender to the process of cultivating Krishna consciousness, which will bring us to the level whereby we actually do fully surrender our mind, life, thoughts, words, fully to Krishna. There would be no need for initiation if we were already perfect in Krishna consciousness. So we surrender to the process of Krishna consciousness with the faith that this will bring us to full and perfect Krishna consciousness. So the surrender means that we cultivate the sense of having no separate interest or no separate identity other than that of the servant, being the servant of Krishna, with no separate interest. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has summarized this: Krishnarte akila cheshta. Everything we do should be for Krishna's pleasure. We find in the Bhagavatam the description of devotees who are separatists. The word Srila Prabhupada uses, separatist. They worship Krishna, but they have a separate interest. That means they may worship for the sake of gain, some material gain, or they harbor materialistic desires. They think it's all right to chant Hare Krishna and also be materialistic. But what we're looking at in this initiation into the Gauriya Vaishnava Sampradaya, with the prospect of pure devotional service, as delineated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. What we're looking at is pure devotional service. This is the subject matter of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Srila Prabhupada referred to as the guidebook for all Gauriya Vaishnavas. Very important to understand this. Religion, Srila Prabhupada, he often delineated or distinguished Krishna consciousness from ordinary religion, because religion is generally concerned with, yes, very good recognition of God, but it's generally concerned with, what do I get from God? What can God do for me? What's the benefit of being a devotee of God? But in pure devotional service, there is no separate interest. Simply, we worship Krishna when one is in the fully perfect stage. Why do you worship Krishna? You could give so many philosophical answers, but Mother Yashoda doesn't have an answer to that. She doesn't even think about it. Just like the mothers here, they don't think, why do I look after my children? They don't have to, I hope, they don't have to get up in the morning and program themselves logically why I should look after my children. Because logically, why should you anyways? Some little wretch that screams in the middle of the night and passes stool everywhere. Why should you do anything for that? It's completely ungrateful, and they just demand everything from you. It's illogical, but it's natural, because the relationship between the mother, especially the mother's love for the child, it's a reflection, a spark of Mother Yashoda's love for Krishna. She doesn't need to go to Bhagavatam class every morning to be convinced to look after Krishna. And she wouldn't go anyway because she's too busy looking after Krishna. She doesn't have time to go to Bhagavatam class. She doesn't chant any rounds. She must be in Maya. How many rounds have you chanted today, Mother Yashoda? You didn't chant any rounds. That is pure devotional service. We're aspiring for that. Our practices are meant for coming to the level of pure devotional service. So does that mean when we come to the level of pure devotional service, we stop chanting Hare Krishna? Well, in Vrindavan, no one's following rules and regulations of 16 rounds or 64 rounds or any such thing. But in the Navadvip pastimes, certainly the devotees, they chant Hare Krishna in full ecstasy every night, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chants rounds also as if he was a neophyte devotee who needs to chant for his personal elevation. But the topmost devotees, even though they don't need to chant for the sake of purification, but they chant anyway just because it's so blissful to do. They feel it to be so blissful to do so. So although the vow at initiation is 4 rules and 16 rounds, the essence of initiation is the spirit, the change of consciousness, of doing everything for Krishna. My life is meant for Krishna. Now I am Krishna's slave. I'm not cultivating separate interest anymore. I no longer identify myself as whatever my supposed identity is at the present time within this material world. Presently I am in a body which could be called English, male body, whatever it may be, whatever our designation may be. We get so many designations just by being born, and we pick up more as we go along. But pure devotional service, as Rupa Goswami quotes in the beginning of his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sarvopadi vinir muktam tatparatvena nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sevanang bhakti ruchyate. Pure devotional service begins when we stop identifying with our present material situation and engage ourselves in the service of Krishna, who is beyond, way, way beyond and above all such material designations. And we do that by engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord of the senses. So the essence then is to identify ourselves as servants of the servants of the servants of the servants of Krishna. We may say, what's all this guru all about? What's all that? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said we're all servants of Krishna, right? Jiva Swarup, Hari Krishna, and Nitya Das. What do you need a guru for? Well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, he also identified himself as Gopi Bhatur Pada Kamalaya Dasu Dasa Anudasaha. He taught by example, by himself accepting a guru, although he is the guru of all the worlds, that we should identify ourselves as servants of the servants of the servants of the servants, 1,000 times removed, Srila Prabhupada used that phrase, of Krishna. And particularly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu referred in this stanza to the gopis of Vrindavan. So we are in that line, Gopi Bhatur, Pada Kamalaya Dasu Das Anudasaha. We are servants of the servants of the servants of Krishna, who is identified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this stanza as the maintainer of the gopis. So our initiation in the Gauriya Vaishnava line, even though we may be neophytes, as Srila Prabhupada writes in one purport, that most of the devotees who I have to initiate are neophytes. He didn't say all of them. But even though we may be highly neophyte, we are introduced via this Krishna conscious movement to the highest and rarest, mysterious, previously hidden level of love of Godhead. Brahmara Durlabha Prem. It is described as being rare or hard to attain even for Lord Brahma. Even for someone so exalted and intelligent and pious as Lord Brahma, it is very hard to find. Durlabh ek Krishna Bhakta. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says it's hard to find one true devotee of Krishna, but we are introduced to that process. That's what's happening in the Krishna consciousness movement. We're introducing to people who are breaking all the regulative principles without even having any idea that it's sinful. That means pretty much everyone all around us in the world, especially in the Western world. They have no idea it's sinful. They don't, even the concept of sin does it in the context of modern Britain. It might seem old-fashioned even to think about sin, even to mention a word sin, or to take it seriously. People are so far away. Agnostic Britain. They talk about post-Christian Europe. That is a phrase used by intellectuals. The Christian era is over. They used to refer to Christendom. That means more or less Europe, and everyone else is heathens. But that's over now. Now the heathen, now the missionaries who used to go and preach in Africa to civilize and baptize the heathens there, now the African missionaries are coming to Britain to preach to the British about God. How about that? Back to front, upside down, inside out. Of course, we know no one is African. Exactly, we're not British, we're not African, or whatever. But I'm just making the point that we have to preach among people who are very far away from even any idea of there's still some lingering idea. What do you think, all of you blue-blooded Brits? There's some idea of the word God hasn't left the English. It's not when you look it up in the dictionary, it doesn't say archaic. It's still a current word. Mostly as a concept for Richard Dawkins and his friends to bash, but the concept is still there. It's more so in America, but it's also under heavy bashing over there. So we who come from this background are now introduced to this highest level of God consciousness. It's very hard to even begin to explain to people. If we talk about how Krishna is begging Radha to admit him into her forest grove and she won't let him in, this is inconceivable. And we find Srila Prabhupada, he didn't actually speak about this, hardly. He wrote about it in his books, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he indicated that we should aim for that ultimately. But the reality is that we are ajnana timirandhasya. We are born in the darkest of darkness, of ignorance. But now we are introduced to this very high, so high that even Lord Brahma, who's in the highest position in this universe, it's far, far above that position. So what is going on? It's the inconceivable mercy of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He gives us a process. All this process we have of rising early, offering arati, chanting rounds, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. It's all given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You'll find in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he gives instructions on this to Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who compiled it in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Srila Prabhupada dutifully and mercifully passed on to us. We have to take it up seriously, without making excuses to enjoy. We're making these vows. Why do we make these vows? If we were already following them, we wouldn't need to make them. Or if we were not in danger of being tempted to fall into that, we wouldn't need to make it. There are still some devotees who mostly being based in India, I initiate, who no meat eating. They never ate meat in their life anyway. Although garlic and onions is highly widespread, and it's considered in Shastra to be on the same level as meat. But there are who haven't taken meat, they haven't taken alcohol. Tea and coffee are widespread. It's hard to find, even among pious people who don't eat meat or drink alcohol, it's hard to find someone who doesn't drink tea or coffee. But then also I'm initiating devotees who've been raised in ISKCON families, who didn't do these things, they didn't even drink tea or coffee. One today is being initiated from ISKCON, what we can call an ISKCON family. Sometimes I'm asked, because I did much research on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur about these four regulative principles, did he ask his disciples to follow them? And from what I don't see that he ever made any stipulation for regulative principles at the time of initiation. Srila Prabhupada did. It was understood, from what I understand, it was understood by previous Vaishnava gurus that you're going to take initiation, you're not going to eat meat or drink wine or any of these things. Of course, in Bengal and Orissa, there are so-called gurus or gurus in traditional Vaishnava lines who initiate without bothering that their disciples eat fish, and they themselves in many cases, if not most cases, they themselves eat fish. It's very, very popular food among Bengalis. They don't care about these things. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he didn't stipulate, but it was understood that anyone who takes initiation from him doesn't eat meat, drink wine, or any such things. Srila Prabhupada spelled it out in the initiation vows. But there's much more to do also. It's not that simply by taking initiation one is liberated. The Mayavadis have a very strange idea. Dandagrahena matrena naro narayana bhavit. Simply by accepting sannyas, specifically as soon as you take the sannyas danda, when you're initiated into sannyas, boom, you become Narayana. That's what they say. A man becomes Narayana. And he still has toothache and has to run to the bathroom every day, or if he's constipated, wish he was running to the bathroom every day. He's not Narayana. But they have a strange idea that just by the formality, by the ceremony, he becomes transformed. Boom! Abracadabra. Touch the mouse and it becomes, or just say a mantra to the mouse and it becomes a tiger. We hear about that. The mouse who's converted into a tiger. Well, it's a much more profound transformation, transforming sinful people into lovers of Krishna. But we have to do our work, and we have to take these vows, and we have to follow these vows. We're aiming for the highest, but many of us are coming from a very low background. And it is observed that some devotees, even after initiation, they justify within their minds not following all the principles. From what I'm told, in America, it's very common among devotees who are initiated to smoke ganja. And they think, well, I don't know what they think exactly, but it's just like common, normal. And in France, so I'm told, it's quite... Of course, these are not very seriously practicing devotees, obviously. But there are many who find it difficult to follow all the intense life, especially when they're living among non-devotees. They find it very difficult to keep to the very strict principles. And in France, from what I'm told, it's common for devotees to drink wine, because in France it's just part of life. You drink a glass of wine with your meal. Just everyone does it. They don't drink to get drunk, but they just drink a glass of wine, and it's just part of life, and they do it. But that's not right. It's bogus. You can't advance on the path of Krishna consciousness by having one foot in the Krishna boat and one foot in the Maya boat. It's Mam Ekam Sharanang Raja. We have to fully surrender to Krishna. If we can't immediately do so mentally, because the mind is running here and there, but at least we have to make the decision. We're making the vow to remain strictly following these principles and no excuses. I'm talking about these ganja smoking, wine drinking. To me it seems quite shocking, maybe because I lived in India so many years. Then in India we find devotees who are initiated, and they also have their material attachments in other ways. Some, even after initiation, remain attached to bogus gurus and demigod worship and all kinds of bogus things which are going to be an obstruction on our path back to home, back to Godhead. So we should understand what it means to be initiated. That's why before formal initiation there's some preliminary training and testing. We may say we should be very liberal in giving initiation, but what's the point of giving initiation to someone who doesn't want to do their work and who's not serious about going back to Godhead? Because you can't go back to Godhead worshipping different demigods. For that you get material results. You can't go back to Godhead with your chillum or your wine glass. Doesn't work. There's no such thing up there. We don't find. Probably in modern Vrindavan you can find. They have right outside the temple. You'll see they have that bhang ice cream, and you can bhang is another form of ganja, cannabis, marijuana, whatever you want to call it. But that's not for our devotees. They're not supposed to take that. We may think, well, it's in Vrindavan. It must be spiritual. No, it's not. We have to refrain from all these things. So it is a firm vow that one has to take. And you may think, why are we stressing on all these things? The devotees are coming and they're coming for initiation, and we're already talking about falling down. And we're talking about not falling down. That's the point, because unfortunately, there are many who take to Krishna consciousness in seriousness, but then later their determination becomes slack for whatever reason. There may be many reasons. There is pressure from especially if we don't keep ourselves in the Vaikuntha bubble, or we're not able to do that. We're working among non-devotees. or pressure from family and friends, so-called family and friends, to compromise our principles, and after some time it just seems so much more easy just to, just every day I have to, someone tell me, why don't you drink wine? Why don't you drink wine? You try to explain to them and they have this funny look on their face, and just drink. And I go on chanting Hare Krishna, and I don't feel my head spinning just from one glass of wine. So it's just so much more easy, and my mind is so much more peaceful, and then I can think of Krishna better if I don't have all this pressure from people. And same thing, in our family we've worshipped this demigod for generations, and everyone's on my case, and okay, just all right, put the demigod on the altar and go with the family members to the temple of the demigod once a month or something like that. And I'll go on chanting Hare Krishna. It doesn't affect me. Well, it does affect, because Krishna says, Mame kam sharanang vraja, and he means it. And it's not something that we learn or we teach our children so they can win some Gita shloka chanting competition. See, my child came number one in the Gita shloka chanting competition. That doesn't mean they're a pure devotee. Do they understand what is being said? That has to be considered also. Once Srila Prabhupada came to the Gurukul in Dallas, and the teachers were very happy to bring the children, young children, before Srila Prabhupada, and together they chanted in Sanskrit one chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And Srila Prabhupada was listening, and then when they finished, he said, "So, can they give the explanation in English?" No, Srila Prabhupada. He wanted them to understand what it means. Also, so when we're studying Srila Prabhupada's books, yes, it's good to learn the Sanskrit verses, but we should try to learn the truth behind them. What is the actual meaning? Just try to... Srila Prabhupada translates that verse, the famous verse, Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text 34, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Try to learn the truth. It's a learning process. We've come for learning. Following, learning, understanding what we're doing, why we're doing. Actually, this just try to learn the truth is not directly in the Sanskrit of that verse, but it's indicated by the word tat at the beginning. Just try to learn the truth by accepting a bona fide spiritual master. In the Western culture, there's no culture of accepting a guru, and it may seem horrific and wrong to accept a guru. How can you have a guru? Someone telling you what to do? Well, you should be free and independent. Come on, your ancestors fought for generations for freedom of the individual, and now you're just going to become a servant of someone who don't even pay you? Rather, you pay them. You have to give them money. What is this? It's considered frightening, dangerous. Why should you submit your mind to someone else? There's no culture of that. That's why sometimes I'm asked by devotees, well, when we see you in public, they ask me, should we bow down? Because what will people think? I tell them, yeah, do it. They don't like it, but unless they see it done, they're never going to get used to it, are they? We want to spread this culture. We're not going to do it by not doing it. Culture means we have to act in certain ways. So unless we do it, people will never get used to it. So yeah, do it. And if they ask, we can explain. They may accept or not accept. Once in America, one somewhat older woman exclaimed to Srila Prabhupada, "Oh, they're all bowing down to you, they're worshipping you." And Prabhupada said, "Yeah, just like I bow down and worship my guru. It's the most normal thing." But for Western people, they consider it horrendous. They may even superficially accept a guru. The idea is, maybe, just like Srila Prabhupada said, you don't accept a guru as a fashion. So they may say, yes, I have a guru. But the whole culture of having a guru, they don't have that. And even Ravi Shankar, the sitar player, was lamenting, or said to Srila Prabhupada, "See, you come to the West and you have disciples, because for learning anything in Vedic culture, you have to have a guru. It's not that you playing sitar for dummies or something, you get a book. Anyway, you can't play sitar. You can't play sitar without a guru. You can't play any musical. Well, maybe someone has some inherent ability from a previous life, but generally, to play any musical instrument properly, you require someone to train you. So, in Indian culture, that's called a guru, but there's a whole culture of respect that goes with that, even for everything, how to play musical instruments, how to dance, how to make chapatis. You learn, the women learn from, or the girls learn from their mother at home. If you're born in a potter family, then your father teaches you how to be a potter. If you're born in a barber family, your father teaches you how to be a barber. If you're born in a thief family, your father teaches you how to be a thief. And so on. There's a culture of accepting the guru. It's just inherent in the culture, which is not in the West. But in the culture of accepting the guru, as we find in India and all the what scholars of religion, they divide world religions into two basic categories: the Abrahamic, which means Judaism, Christianity and Islam, and what they call the Dharmic religions, which means Hinduism, for want of a better term. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, like that. But in the culture of accepting the guru, just we see YouTube, Sadguru, and Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, and this and that. But there's a culture of accepting a guru, but there's no. It's become a social formality in which there's no culture of trying to understand the truth. Remember this Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text 34? Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. So the culture is there. It used to be that there were family gurus. You're born in a certain family and therefore you're such and such is the guru. And when he dies, his son becomes the guru for your family and their sons. And it goes on like that. There's no culture of trying to understand the truth. The idea that, well, I got a guru, that's all. Just he blesses you and that's it. He comes around and you feed him and give him some dakshina and he gives you some blessings and he goes away and he's happy and we're happy. He doesn't try to impinge on our life or any such thing. So there are many, many misconceptions. We should try to understand what it means to accept a guru. It's not just by blessings, a common misconception. Just the guru blesses, everything finished. Bless me that I'll become a pure devotee. I'm often asked, bless me that I'll become a pure devotee. The blessing is the teaching. You have to take it and do your work. The blessing is already there. You take it. You have to, just like we know very well, Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One receives the seed of the creeper of pure devotional service by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. But from Chaitanya Charitamrita, we also hear Mali Hoya, She Bij Kore Aropan. You take this, then there's a lot of work you have to do yourself. You got the seed, okay. You got the seed, okay. But he shouldn't sit with you. You're supposed to be clean. Children are never clean. There's a reason for all these things. So you have to take the seed. Then what do? The seed is not a plant. It's a potential plant. You have to take the seed and plant it. So you have the word plant as a noun and as a verb. So the plant, you have to plant the seed, and then you have to water it. And what is the water? This is all described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The seed is planted in the heart, but you become a gardener by Shravan Kirtan Jale Karaye Shechan. We have to water the seed. Of course, it's all one extended metaphor. We should water the seed with the water of hearing and chanting about Krishna. We're having a Shravan Kirtan camp for hearing and chanting. That is watering the seed. And the hearing, one has to understand how to hear properly. It's so much instruction. Proper hearing from proper source. We have to know what kind of water to give. If we give water that is full of poisonous chemicals, it will spoil the seed. Or even if the creeper has started to fructify, we put poisonous chemicals, it will destroy. And there may be certain nutrients that we have to give. If the soil is weak in nitrogen, we may have to give some fertilizer that is strong in nitrogen. It's a whole science. So hearing and chanting, that should be free of the poison of non-Vaishnavism. Avaishnava mukhod girnam putam hari katamritam shravanam naiva kartavya sarpo chishta yata payam. We are warned by Sanatana Goswami that we should hear the nectar of Krishna Katha, but we should not hear from those who are not properly situated Vaishnavas. And the example is given, just like milk is most nutritious food, but that milk, if it is a little bit is drunk by a poisonous snake, then all the milk becomes poisonous. So similarly, the nectar of Krishna Katha, if mixed with the materialistic thoughts of someone who's not a properly situated Vaishnava or a Mayavadi, then it will all turn to poison. By hearing, we will not cultivate the principle of pure devotional service, but the poison will enter our heart. So hearing from proper sources, with proper attention, with proper attitude, it's a whole science. Even hearing is very easy. You don't have to do anything to hear. But hearing about Krishna, hearing spiritual instruction from the Vedas, is not just simply a matter of being present in the vicinity of a sound being made, but it means, just like we were reading the other day, Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinantya Bhikshnasha, hearing, chanting, and accepting within our hearts constantly. This is required. Proper hearing and proper chanting. When we're talking about 16 rounds chanting, we're aiming at offenseless chanting. That's why Srila Prabhupada had usually his disciples, sometimes he would do himself, he would have a senior disciple speak to the prospective initiates on the subject of offenseless chanting. Because offenseless chanting will very quickly help the creeper to grow and flourish. But offensive chanting will cause the creeper of devotional service to dry up. It's like putting poison. And it will the weeds which are not pure devotional service, it will encourage that to grow up. So it has to be offenseless chanting. Niraparadhe nam loile pai premadhan. If one chants without offenses the holy name of Krishna, then very quickly one can attain the treasure of pure love of Krishna. But on the other hand, Bahujanma kare jadi shravan kirtan tabuta napai Krishna pade premadhan. We can chant, we can hear over many lifetimes and not achieve love of Krishna if we are offensive. So you have to be very careful. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns against the weeds in the heart which can strangle the plant of pure devotional service that we're trying to cultivate. He warned, Nishidacha, Kutinati, Jiber Hingshan, Labha Puja, Pratishta, Di Jato Upashaka Gon. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warned that there are many kinds of weeds within the heart which can strangle the fragile creeper. Creeper is a very fragile kind of plant. It requires the support of a strong tree or a house to go up. Otherwise it might straggle along the ground. Or it might just not go anywhere. Very easily, if it grows along the ground very easily, some cow walks along and just by walking catches the creeper catches in the hoof and breaks the whole creeper, or is trampled on. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warned, engaging in forbidden activities, therefore no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, engaging in forbidden activities, being diplomatic and political in the name of Vaishnavism, violence to other living beings, which Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur defined. Apart from the obvious meaning of violence to other living beings, he also said that not preaching or obstructing the preaching of Krishna consciousness is a kind of violence to living beings. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns against desire for monetary or gain, material gain, for being honored, for having some position. So all these kinds of desires that by performing devotional service, I'll get some good money, I'll be well respected, I'll get some position, I let my son join ISKCON only if he's given a good position. I've heard this. If he's made a temple president within 2 years, okay. Otherwise, yeah, it's not meant to be a career opportunity. It's not meant to be like that. It's hard to hear, right? He's protesting already. These weeds are different kinds of material desires. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Labh puja pratishtadi. That means there are many others. There's so many different kinds of material desires which can strangle the creeper of devotional service. Therefore we have to go on hearing and chanting regularly in order to and to nourish the plant of devotional service, and we have to consciously take out the weeds. A gardener has work to do. If you see nice gardens, here in Britain there are so many nice gardens people have in their houses, or you can go to some formal gardens maintained by local administrations or whatever. Many very beautiful gardens, especially at this time of year. There are many beautiful gardens to see. But it's not just that the plants just grow like that and it all looks nice, but it's planned. There are gardeners who know what they're doing, and they work hard to cultivate the plants and to take out the weeds and to give the proper nutrients at the proper time, and then we get a nice garden. But if we just take it haphazardly, then we don't get a nice garden, we don't get nice plants. So the weeds of material desires, they can manifest in many ways. Hoya mayar das karinana abhilash. When we become the servant of Maya, and so many different kinds of desires other than those for pure devotional service arise within the heart. And Krishna consciousness, taking to Krishna consciousness, is like declaring war against the material energy. Material energy is very strong. So we can only overcome the material energy by taking shelter of Krishna. This is all basic ABC talk that we all need to know and we all need to hear about regularly. Daivihi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Krishna's material energy, it's coming from Krishna. It has a spiritual source. It's very powerful, very difficult to overcome. But if we surrender to Krishna, we can easily overcome it. We have to be conscious that these material desires have to be given up, and that we have to overcome them. Now, I'm speaking this, it's initiation, but I'm just elaborating on this somewhat because to make the point that it's initiation, it's entrance. Srila Prabhupada writes about neophytes on the threshold of the house of bhakti. So when we enter the house, it's a place where we come to do work. Ashram. Shrama means work. Right? So it's not, the word is not ashram, no work. It's ashram. That means no work. It means hard work. Got a lot of work to do. And the work is, first of all, we have to work on ourselves, with giving up desires to accumulate material wealth, to enjoy illicit connection, sexual connection, the desire to be respected and honored by others. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says you have to recognize. A gardener has to know enough to recognize what are the weeds, because the weeds might look like the real plant. So enough training has to be given to recognize the weed and yank it out. And if we let the weed grow, then even the hearing and chanting can even water the weed. Just like if one is trying to be a good devotee, humble devotee, it's quite likely at some point you'll be recognized. Oh, he's a good devotee. And then we think, oh, no. The seed of subtle desire may enter the heart. That, oh, they recognize I'm a good devotee. Okay, so I'll go on chanting humbly in the corner, and I hope they notice me. And then they'll call me a good devotee more. We may not logically calculate like that, but there's something going on in the back of our consciousness. So we have to be very, very careful. We get bodies according to our desire. If we desire anything in this material world, then we have to come back. We may be chanting Hare Krishna, then we'll come back. There are so many, Srila Prabhupada said, there are so many devotees in the heavenly planets who want to take birth within the Krishna Consciousness movement at the present time. So our grihastas, they should give them facility by having children. Give the demigods in the heavenly planets facility to come. But what does that mean? That means that demigods in the heavenly planets means they were devotees, but they had material desires, so they had to become demigods. And again, they have to come here. And if we're not careful, then we get born again. We will be put in a condition, if we have a desire, even with chanting Hare Krishna, we'll be put in a position where we can fulfill our material desires if we don't carefully work on getting rid of those material desires. So we have to be very careful when we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What is the attitude? O Krishna, O energy of Krishna, please engage me in your service. And that means, that's the end of the translation that Prabhupada gave. Please engage me in your service. We could add to that, so that I can fulfill all my material desires. But no, just engage me in your service, full stop, period, finished. Just engage me in your service, that's all. I'm just here for your service. So that's all, it's very simple. The philosophy of Krishna consciousness, the basis of it, are very simple, but we come from a background of who knows how many births in this material world, trying to enjoy this material world. We have a background of that. We may find it not very easy to overcome all these dirty things within the heart. The process is the hearing and chanting about Krishna, and we take help from Krishna via the Vaishnavas, the Guru and the Gurus. We take initiation from the Guru, from a Guru, but we should see all the Vaishnavas, especially those who are very seriously practicing, those who are benefactors by guiding us, giving us proper instruction. They're all our gurus, and they're helping us. We need help. To accept a guru means recognition that I need help. I'm not so strong that I'm going to just chant Hare Krishna and become purified by myself. Hare Krishna. We can proceed with the giving of names and beads now. Are you going to explain how to do that? Offer obeisances like this, and I'll just be away for 5 minutes.